All right, hey you guys. So instead of meeting in person today, I am doing what I would have done anyway, which is film this video for those of us who are not attending class in person, which is more and more each week, which I completely understand your choice not to attend class this semester. So what I decided to do was just totally cancel for today. And this way I can give you more attention if you have questions, and I can give you just the blanket information that I've already given people who attended on Tuesday. So if you attended class on Tuesday, you don't really have to watch this whole video unless you just want those points reiterated again. I don't really have anything new to share from Tuesday. So in our class on Tuesday, I spent a lot of time talking about the structure of an essay and the genre of essay writing. So I spent some time talking to the students who were in that class about what it means to be a good communicator, and how part of what communication and writing is in any situation that you find yourself in is following into expected patterns. So speaking or writing in a way that shows that you understand the conventions that are expected so your reader can more easily respond. I talk to students about how often when we write in business settings or when we write in other real life situations, we're talking to someone who isn't going to spend a lot of time trying to parse through our ideas, but instead want to very clearly and specifically know the things that we are going to say because they follow a certain form. That's one of the reasons why essay structure is important, because it helps prepare your reader to understand your points. Because when I'm reading a paper that you've written, I don't want to just spend all my time trying to figure out what you meant. I want your meaning to be clear so that I can engage with those ideas. So I spent some time talking about the structure of an essay. And I talked about your worksheets that you've already completed and how they prepare you to completely fill out basically the entire rough draft of the paper. So let me start with the introduction and thesis. I've already filmed a video on that worksheet. It's due tonight, 1.3. That is the start of your paper. Every paper that you write in college is going to start with an introduction. Certain classes and certain disciplines ask for you to do different things, but for the most part, you can expect to provide a summary of what you're talking about in an introduction. I've explained this, like I said, in that video, so if you're confused about how to write the introduction, make sure you see the video that I already made. But just remember that that's a way to introduce your reader into your concept. The last sentence of your introduction is going to be that thesis statement. Why, some students may ask? Well, it's because you use the introduction to lead up to your point. Have you ever been in an argument and made your main point quickly? No, usually you frame okay, look, you did all of these things wrong and here's why I'm mad. So we provide evidence, we provide context. We even in a real argument, we don't just immediately always know exactly what the exact point is that we're trying to make. We lead the person to see it. And that's what you're doing with the introduction. You're leading your reader to your main point, which is in that thesis. That's kind of a hard and fast rule, especially with this paper in particular. So I'll be looking for that thesis statement to really reflect your main idea. So I talked about some good and bad thesis statements in class. I wish I had a whiteboard in here so I could write for you guys, but maybe I should go steal one from somewhere, but what I on campus and return it, not steal it. Don't call the police. That's not what I meant. But anyway, a couple of examples we looked at in class were thesis statements that were obvious, which is bad, and a thesis statement that's interpretive, which is good. So in one of the classes, I talked about how a bad thesis statement would just point out the obvious, like this film, it shows that fear is bad, or this film shows that the kids are mean to each other. This film shows that the adults are irresponsible. This film shows that, clowns are scary. I don't think anybody would write that, but really obvious things, that's something that you saw and noticed and recognized. But what instead you want to do is interpret. This film showed that kids were mean to each other to show that the real horror is childhood itself, or that there's horror in being different from other people, or something like that. You have to figure out what your angle is, and you'll all have something different, but you're interpreting why the film focuses on such a thing. That's one thing. So that's introduction thesis. What I talked about from there was your body paragraphs, which you've written basically if you go back to your essay building 1.2. The very first sentence in a body paragraph is the topic sentence, which you wrote out using those TDQA charts. Start with the topic sentence. What follows is immediately after that topic sentence is a piece of evidence, which is you explaining your detail more fully. So in that TDQA box, you have the topic sentence at the bottom, and your detail, what you picked, ends up being your supporting evidence. So you may have just said something kind of brief in that TDQA, and you want to say a couple more sentences. It's really descriptive in the body paragraph, but that's the second thing that appears. The claim, the detail, and then the analysis is the third part of the body paragraph. And you can pull your answers from your TDQA chart, those extra answers that you didn't use for your topic sentence, and plug that information in as your analysis, because your analysis really further investigates the evidence and shows its relationship to the thesis. So you have all of these pieces now in place based on having completed this essay building assignments. You may not have done 1.3 yet, but it is due tonight. So when you turn in your paper, the final draft on Monday, you should be piling stuff together from all this pre-writing that you've done in order to build a full paper. I also talked about conclusions a little bit on Tuesday, and I mentioned that there's a discussion, and I need to remind myself which one it is because I forgot in class 2. It's the discussion board that I asked you guys to do that you watched the last scene of it, and you talked about the meaning of literature or why it's important to study literature. Those were so fun to read just in general, but some of the ideas that you wrote there and some of what you said, it's discussion 1.2, some of that information might end up creeping its way into your conclusion. So this is how I want to say this. Anything that you've written already for class in discussion boards or assignments that you've written, you can use in your paper. You're not cheating off yourself. I ask you to do those assignments ahead of time so that you can use them later. Now, you might make them better now through revision, through rethinking what you said, through thinking about if it could be more clear, those kinds of things. I welcome that, but keep in mind that your work is your work, and you can repurpose it for your formal essay assignment if you want to, if you had a really good idea that you want to keep using. So I'm just all of this to say, I'm trying to convince you that you have the building blocks of the paper already in place, and your organization matters a lot. So I'm going to put this in writing as well, so if you've watched the video and you're still like, what is she talking about? There's going to be a document that accompanies this that shows you like what an essay looks like with each of the pieces, so I hope that helps. The other two things that you're going to see when I post this, in addition to the document that's like, here's essay structure, you're going to see some information about how to make sure your paper's in MLA format. And I'm also providing some instruction for using Grammarly on your final draft. So what Grammarly does is I don't want to say it proofreads for you, but it kind of does. It's way better than Microsoft Word or any other word processor at catching mistakes in your writing and also pointing out where you might be drifting into an informal tone or where you might be making some other kind of weird sentence structure. It points out those kinds of things for you, and it is free for West Georgia students. So my instructions are, like I said, going to show you the essay structure that you're plugging your stuff into before Monday. It's going to show you the MLA stuff, and it's going to talk about how to send your paper through Grammarly and make any adjustments that it suggests if you want to. That's not required, but it's just really optional and helpful, really helpful. So this is a shorter version of what I said in class on Tuesday, but it's the main points, and it's going to get you ready to turn in the paper. So it's almost noon now, so I'm going to try to get this uploaded to YouTube and posted before our class time so you can have the chance to watch it. But do remember, I am available on email particularly. That's what I would prefer. If you have questions, shoot them to me in an email. But if you desperately need to talk, I am here in my office as well. We'll just make sure we have our masks on when we chat. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get this published for you guys. Let me know if you have questions. Don't forget these upcoming due dates, and we'll catch up again in person next week.